All right, looks like we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us again today. We have Taylor Zimmermann joining us, and I'd like to go ahead and just pass it off to him. Would you please introduce yourself, talk about the district you're running in, the position you're running for, and what made you actually run? What made you run for this spot?
Yeah, where do I start? So I'm running in the Legislative District 10 for State Representative Position 2, and that district is North Snohomish County, a lot of Skagit County, Mount Vernon mainly, and then all of Island County, and that includes Camino Island as well. Stanwood is not LD10, but Island County, Camino Island is. And so, you know, there's, I've just been pretty much sick and tired of the political machine that has basically just stuck it to the bottom 90% for as long as I can remember, but especially the last decade. And so, as you know, I'm a younger guy. I grew up, you know, going to college and everything, and I think it probably stemmed from that, being stuck with student loans and 7% interest, you know, where the government's getting rich off me. It's criminal. And I know I'm not alone. I'm not really, you know, not trying to victimize myself, but it is, yeah, I think it started with that. And then, you know, definitely the last 4 years has pushed me along even more. And you know, it's not even Trump, you know, and the Trump supporters and the GOP of today, and you know, and the squabbling and the corruption, and you know, basically all the profit over people and special interest, and I could go on, but it's also a lot of moderate Democrats that just aren't doing anything about it, and they're not doing much. There's no action happening. I'm not seeing progress far enough. A lot of just what I'd call baby step legislation. I'm sick and tired of seeing billionaires counting their annual income in billions, while, you know, the rest of us are just trying to scrap by paycheck to paycheck. And so you know, I guess using a sports analogy, I played a lot of sports growing up. I never wanted to be on the sidelines. I always wanted to be in the game at the end of the game, and try to make my mark to win the game. And that's what I want to do. You know, I'm sick and tired of kind of being stranded on the sidelines, feeling powerless. And I never really considered myself, you know, as a future politician growing up or anything. Some of my friends were a little bit more political than I was. I was just kind of along for the ride in those conversations. But I've become way more political the last 5 years. And it just got to the point where it started brewing over. And I'm like, man, well, basically the only way to actually influence change is to get involved and do it. You can't rely on what's in there now. You know, and Bernie's been huge too. Bernie and Elizabeth Warren. I love them both. Bernie especially, I mean, especially 4 years ago, has really got me involved, and pushed me to this, to where I'm at today.
And
Can you tell us a little, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask about he's running as the Progressive Party, if I am correct. Is that right? Not as a Democrat or a Republican. Can you kind of go into that and explain your choices in that?
I didn't really identify with either. You know, I voted, or I have never voted Republican. I voted Democrat in the past, but I felt like I wanted to just kind of differentiate myself, because there's too many Democrats that are really moderate and not as far left as I want them to be, or as I am. So I wanted to really differentiate myself as a far left Democrat, which I would consider progressive. And yeah, I've talked with people in the Progressive Party about this, and you know, there are some varying opinions on whether progressive, means like far to the left or not. I think it's just really watching out for everybody. And it really, it really doesn't matter if you're red or blue. I like the idea that progressives are watching out for everyone's best interests. It doesn't matter the political affiliation. I'm sick of the political divisiveness of the red versus blue battle arena, and I didn't want to be a part of it. So I didn't want to define myself and limit myself as a Democrat.
I think Courtney was, yeah.
So I was wondering, can you, I like what you had to say about that. I find that a lot of people agree upon things while our elected officials are paid by their donors to disagree and keep us at a standstill. So,
Yeah, exactly.
So right in line with that idea. But then can you tell us a little bit about your district? I don't know a lot about it. And where around in your district are you?
Yeah, so I grew up here, Skagit Valley. I grew up in the Conway area, and I can tell you it's a swing district. So there's an incumbent Democrat running, and there's a Republican running. Before that, in 2018, it swung to the incumbent Democrat. So before that, it was Republican. My growing up, I always had friends that were, good friends that were on the far left end, like radical progressive, and also I had like the conservative farm families, as friends as well. And we always got along. Really, politics never came up. This was kind of before I even really got into politics, and so, but this has always been an area that has had the far left as well as the far right. Oak Harbor, Island County, you'll see a lot of military because you got the base and stuff over there. So they tend to maybe shift a little right. Mount Vernon is, like I said before, is like one or the other. It can be extreme, one or the other. There's like a hippie vibe in Mount Vernon, then there's this like real conservative vibe as well in some pockets. A lot of big Hispanic population in Mount Vernon. And then Camino Island, I don't know as much about, but I'd imagine it's probably a little mix of both as well. You get the island folk, and then you get some of the wealthy conservative folk, so yeah.
Yeah, my nearest island is Vashon, and that's an interesting mix as well. I'm in Tacoma.
Yeah.
Rhonda, you tend to, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the big things that Washington Bernie-crats have been about, our Revolution Washington in particular, is really about anti-corruption and election reform and really watching where the money's coming from. So I want to kind of get your take. First, how are you fundraising? And if you do accept any PACs, what do they tend to be? And are you accepting any kind of super PACs?
No. Well, very grassroots campaign. The expenditures of my campaign has totaled $9.06. So no, we're not dealing with any PACs, nor would I. We have run a very grassroots campaign. It's been mostly digital marketing, social media stuff. I didn't even do signs. We did a website, Facebook page, Facebook group. I have a very talented team. My campaign manager, my policy guy, strategist. I have some volunteers, all really talented, great ideas. And so what we need is to get our message out there. We need to get our good ideas out there, to the public. But obviously it's too late, for the vote's going to be in a week. I kind of got into it a little bit later than I wanted to. And this is my first go at it. This is my first fray, into running as well. So we're all kind of learning as we go. We've kind of just said we're going to throw ourselves into the fire, and we all have a long-term plan. So we're not just in this for this election cycle. We're in this. I have, my whole team. We have commitment to be in this for the long run. We will start to collect donations eventually. And we'll focus just on small, individual donations, grassroots campaign, absolutely. Yeah, did that answer all the facets?
Yeah, well, yes. So thank you for that. Yeah, it is very important to us. We do watch the money quite closely. So it does to us, it says a lot on where that's coming from. So I'm excited to hear that.
I'm all about, and like ranked choice voting. That sounds awesome.
That was my next question.
Running as a progressive, that would be huge for third-party candidates to be able to do that. And I mean, if it was up to me, there would be, campaign caps on all levels to equal the playing field.
So you agree with like publicly financed elections, like they're doing kind of in Seattle? Part of it is those voucher system.
Right.
So ranked choice, you're definitely for.
I'm open to publicly finance. My biggest thing is you need to have a cap. You need to lower the cap on individual donations, and you have to have a cap on the total donations. However that's done, whatever. I could see maybe using some of those public funds in a better way, maybe to combat some of the issues. But hey, if that's what it takes to equal the playing field and get it done, then that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my kind of goal or hope is that eventually we would have those publicly funded. There really is only a strict timeline people can campaign at. They're only allotted so much money each to have. It's very, takes all this other stuff out of it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we'll take special interest out of it and the lobbying and all that BS. So yeah.
Excellent. They've been trying to push some of these democracy bills in our state legislature, quite a few different ones out there. Is there anything out there that you are looking at championing that we don't have in place now that you think would be help us more democratically here in Washington State?
Like as far as bills concerning issues, or as far as like voter access and things like that?
Kind of all of the above. So you mentioned ranked choice voting.
Would
you look at championing and trying to help push that through the legislature? Are there any other types of things at the top of your list that would help our democracy here in Washington State? I mean, we do pretty good on some things, but there's, others that can be worked on. So I wasn't sure if there's other things in your site that you see that you would like to get behind and champion in that realm of anti-corruption, election reform.
Yeah. I mean, I think, the ranked choice thing, as I stated before, having campaign caps, lowering the individual donations, or going to a public funds policy for that. I could, as far as I could go on about like other things I want to do that I think would improve our democracy directly. But fortunately in Washington State, we do have mail-in voting. We're one of 5 states that does have that. I do feel at a federal level, our democracy is at a much greater threat, at a threat more than it's ever been, really, because it's just a disaster what's going to happen here in the fall. At least, if I don't know what's going to happen in the fall on the federal level, because there's so many states that don't have mail-in voting. And then how are people going to get out to vote? So my big thing is, accessibility for people to get to vote. Having polling stations where people don't have to wait in line. And so that's a part of that accessibility component. Making sure that marginalized communities aren't, being suppressed, their votes not being suppressed, that they have the same accessibility as every other community out there. And this
How
is a
about
lot of stuff.
our incarcerated individuals? How do you feel about them having the right to vote while they're incarcerated?
Well, it probably depends on the crime. Yeah, I mean, we have too many individuals that, you know, are incarcerated for nonviolent and, you know, drug crimes that are costing us a lot of money, and they shouldn't be in there, and it's crazy. You know, so yeah, absolutely, their voting rights shouldn't be taken away, and they shouldn't be there to begin with. You know, yeah, we need a complete criminal justice reform.
Yes.
And not just from, you know, voting is absolutely important, but when I want to shift that to the way that we treat people in the justice system, and the way that we treat our rehabilitation, you know, in a way that we can maybe, you know, offer apprenticeship programs or guaranteed jobs programs for people that to have that transition. If you're able to not treat them as a criminal, lifetime criminal, when they're in the system, they're always in the system, and treat them as someone who's been rehabilitated, give them the love and support that they need coming out. You know, they can learn a skill while they're in prison, and then when they get out, have a job, and that job will keep them busy, hopefully, you know, keep them away from the bad things from their past. I think my brother, he was in the criminal system for years, all nonviolent crimes, mostly drug stuff, and every time, you know, he never had any support from the state or from the system. He had support from my family, my parents, you know, but that was it. And he was never able to get out of that systemic oppression that our criminal justice system puts on incarcerated people. And I can only imagine how much tougher it would be to not have that family support, and then also not to have that state support. Of course, you're going to fall back into hard times. Of course, you're going to fall into the bad things. Of course, you're going to fall into depression and anxiety and mental health issues. Like, our system doesn't help or rehabilitate. It guarantees that the oppressed stay oppressed. And that includes incarcerated. So.
Yeah.
So I have a couple things. One is a response I cultivated out of your questionnaire, and that's about abortion. You support a woman's right to choose. You do mention restrictions once the fetus is viable, and that's as the state law exists now. I do suggest perhaps the possibility of expanding the thought on it, that women don't tend to wait until the third trimester or until viability to have I didn't want to do this abortion. Any abortions in that last trimester that during the viability stage would be for a medical reason. The vast majority, if not the entire time, is so if women aren't having abortions in the third trimester, would there be any reason to have restrictions on the books, creating hoops for which women have to get permission to have a medical procedure?
Right. Well, I mean, at the state level, that's not really something that I have much influence on. I mean, the abortion issue is really more of a federal issue. It's not something that, you know, my campaign team and I have talked a whole lot about, to be honest. But ultimately, yeah, I will support a woman's right to choose. You know, it's her body. And there's got to be equality with that. And so, yeah.
Thank you.
Are you referring to as far as if there's a medical reason to get the abortion, as in like a medical reason, it'll hurt the female if she doesn't?
Well, I mean, in your answer, you go over your answer. It is not offensive. It does not put more restrictions on women that currently exist. It reinforces the limits that exist. And I'm asking for the limits to be lifted because women having third trimester abortions are almost exclusively women who wanted to have the baby, but there are medical reasons to terminate. So therefore, there would not be a reason to prohibit them as long as a doctor was signing on to it, is my proposal.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'd be open to that. If there's a medical reason, as far as what you're saying is there's a medical reason to abort, meaning that the female carrying the child may die,
Maybe harmed,
or maybe harmed. Yeah.
or the quality of life, or that life might, if it's a pregnancy that will terminate in a traumatic, like a death close to birth, a neonatal birth. Like there are medical conditions they can detect and then just terminate when they find that out, rather than persist and go through the whole thing. So yeah, whether it's a fetal issue or a maternal health issue, third trimester abortions, I'm just asking for women to have to talk to their doctor about it and get a doctor's approval, instead of also having to prove to the courts or the law that it's justified.
Yeah, I'd be open to that. I mean, there would have to be specific language in place as far as what those justifications, would be.
Well, I'm asking for the language to be removed from the books. So it's just a doctor issue. It's just a health issue.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, that there's no law. It's just health. So that's what.
And you're referring to like in federally then.
Wherever we can do it.
Okay. No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I'm open to that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And this is, we want to know where you stand, because maybe next time you'll run for Senate. Who knows, right? So, so separate question. We are in an amplified awareness of racial injustice. We hear varying calls for how to respond to the reality of disproportionate police brutality wreaked upon people of color, specifically Black people. Where do you stand between reforms? Do you think police should, the amount of policing should remain the same, but they need to be reformed? Can you see a reduction of policing and taking a defunding and taking those funds and funding other services that would respond in lieu of police? Where are you finding yourself in that discussion right now?
Yeah. So I don't like the word defund. I'm going to use another term: reallocation of resources. I think that's a better way to term it. So yeah, I am for reallocating funds to better services that will actually do a better job for what they're needed for. And what I mean by that is, we should have professional mental health people dealing with mental health issues. We should have, counselors and psychologists or people that specialize with drug addiction, responding, to those calls of people that are ODing on drugs. A police officer never really signed up for those jobs, and they don't have the professional training to do those jobs. So they shouldn't be doing it. They should be doing the job that they, essentially signed up for, and which is responding to crime. We must not forget that the police are not here to prevent crime. They don't prevent crime. They respond to crime. We can reallocate funds to helping solve crime better as well, and giving our labs and our technicians and our forensics people the equipment and the resources that they need to help solve crimes. I think we can sell this to police if we message it in the right way. We're just trying to make their jobs easier, and basically eliminate the things that they really probably don't want to do in the first place. And they're let's be honest, they're not good at. I'm a supporter of Campaign Zero. So all those initiatives, we need to do a better job with actually getting to the root source of the issue in our communities to actually prevent crime. If we really want to decrease, we can we can automatically decrease police presence by just eliminating crime or reducing crime. But the way to do that is to pump more money into, community programs, into social programs, healthcare for all, education for all, programs that will actually build up our community, give people dignity and support, give people an affordable living wage. Therefore, people won't need or feel like they're stuck in a rut, or will never have hope to go to college, or will have to turn to gangs or violence or criminal activity, to get by. So I think a lot of these things is about just building up our community to a point where that is going to reduce crime in that regard. And then we also need to reallocate a lot of those police resources to better responding with better people and with better programs than what we have.
Thank you. There's
I
a question.
like what Eugene is doing. Actually, Eugene, Oregon has that Cahoots program. So I mean, that's just a small model, but yeah, it's shown success thus far.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I was been looking into that. It's great. There's a question from YouTube. Do you want to know what you have to say about the protests and the federal forces being used in the municipalities from LA, Portland, Seattle? What are your views on what's going on?
Oh, it's crazy. Did Seattle just deban the chemical weapons? Yeah, I think I just heard that the other day. Well, yeah, well, this is another police question. Our police training and de-escalation training in particular is sorely lacking within our police departments all around the nation, but we're seeing it firsthand in our backyard in Seattle. It's disturbing what's going on, because the police are setting a bad precedent. I think destructing our city as well is setting a bad precedent. So you have two bad precedents going on here at once. But you know what? We're at a point here, kind of at a crux where nothing has changed in forever now. Nothing has changed. Something needs to happen, and if this is the way we need to get our message out and to ensure that change and progress will happen in the future, then that's just a sacrifice we have to pay, because right now there absolutely should not be the violence that our police, especially SPD, has really escalated in that city. I think the Fed, we saw the feds come in, and that just made it worse.
Right. How do you feel about that, about having feds coming in and taking over? Because there's even in Portland, some officials there are saying, we don't want you here, we want you out. So how do you feel about, federal kind of taking over our local municipalities? I mean,
I don't like it at all. Yeah, I don't know how it's even. It's definitely not right. I don't understand how they're able to even do that. Yeah, it's crazy. It's not right at all. I think it's a total abuse of authority from the federal end. So I think, in a way, what's going on with the police abusing their powers and going into these situations all gung-ho is really proving the protesters' point even more into how nonsensical this approach is. Another thing is, it's wild that you can go 6 months and be a cop. Like I could go into an academy and be a cop in 6 months. We have a lot of ex-military and people that have been in combat situations before, maybe have undiagnosed PTSD, and they get into some of these situations that they go they think back to their military training, go all gung-ho like they're in a combat situation. And it's like, no, you're not in a wartime, you're not in combat right now. And we're seeing a lot of that culture, I think, rub off onto the police force in general. And so yeah, we're seeing a huge militarization of the police.
Oddly, I find it's a interesting mix. You hear the military people say, we have rules about engagement, and the police seem to not. So it's like you've got military concerns for military former military members being police officers, and then you've got military critique of police officers. It's like there is like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, and it's exactly. It seems like there's more honor out there on the battlefield than on our own streets with our own people.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's change from the subject. I think we got pretty in depth there. I know it's very big, a subject, and we can always come back to it. But you did mention healthcare, and you're right. That's a big piece, I think, of just, decency for every person to have, being able to stay healthy if they so choose. So you said you are for Medicare for all. I want to, because you're running for state legislature, I think you are a part of this, but I want to make sure that you are aware of Whole Washington and the Whole Washington Trust. You have endorsed it. Beautiful. Yep. So if elected, would you look at that as being somebody to be a champion to help push that through?
Yeah, that's one of my core platform planks. Yeah. And I would actually, I would like to work with them to figure out a way we can put childcare onto Whole Washington as well, or something with universal childcare as well. But yeah.
Beautiful, great. I didn't have to go too in depth with that. That's great. Thank you. What's another one of your planks that you really are passionate about that we may have not spoken about yet? One or two of them. I want to give you the opportunity to kind of delve into that so people are aware of what you're all about.
Yeah, so I'll go into the economy a little bit because that's a big topic of controversy and debate with COVID times and everything going on. And this also goes into healthcare. Should no one's access to healthcare should be tied to their socioeconomic or job status situation. It's a right, should be a right, not a privilege. But also, we can't wait until tax season to get funds into our communities. And so I've worked with my policy guy, he's my economic monster, about ways in which we can get funds into our communities now and not have to wait until after tax season. Of course, capital gains tax is great. I support a vacancy tax, which is basically, putting a tax on developers and landlords and such for having empty apartments, a way to combat our housing situation, make housing more affordable. Let's get people into empty vacant buildings. But as far as getting money into the communities now, I think we can have a situation where we utilize municipality currencies, municipality bonds. We can utilize the municipal lending facility at the Fed Reserve. In that way, states, are able to sell essentially bonds to the Fed Reserve. They'll purchase them. That pumps money into the local municipalities, and then people can also essentially also utilize municipality bonds to get money from those municipality governments into the hands of the people right away. It would be a program sort of like a bond, but you don't have to wait until it matures. You get that right away in the form of maybe a municipal currency. And that municipal currency would have a 1-to-1 ratio with the US dollar. So it'd be a flow of money to get, pump money in and just get our economy going, get money, the people need. And as people have more money, they're spending more money back into the system, into the economy. And so you get this, this full cycle, this full circle starting to go. I'm the only.
On that economic piece that you're still at, have you heard about or thought about like a state bank here?
Yep.
Bob
That
Haskell has
would
been
be
working on it. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. I think the Fed should be also regional, more regional, and then also have a state bank, especially for times like this. And really, banking is a privilege. Banks have to get a license, federally to bank. And so we can absolutely have a system, where we have state banks. We can have nonprofit state banks, so we can get money, into the hands of the people at super low interest. People won't feel like they're getting robbed, nickel and dimed, like when you go to a bank. People aren't getting denied left and right for the loans that they may need. So yeah, a state bank would absolutely be in conjunction with this, municipality bond and currency system. Also, we've discussed the idea of postal banking, kind of in a similar context. But yeah, we need to think outside of the box of this tax and spend structure of traditional economics that we've kind of all been fooled. Our federal government. Another thing is we need to hold our politicians and federal government accountable to spend. They need to spend money on the people and communities. Don't give me this bull that they can't afford it, because they can. We are a sovereign nation that prints our own currency. We're not going to go bankrupt, and hyperinflation will not happen. You spend more money on your people, it will become a cycle. More money will come back into the system and back to them if you spend money on them. We've had it backwards all along. We've had it backwards with the traditional sense of thinking. We need taxes. The government needs taxes, needs revenue to be able to spend on us. No, the government needs to spend on us, and then that will create revenue. And that's the way, the model that we need to think about. State and local governments are not under the same constraints. Like a household and a state and local government, those all have budgetary constraints. However, the federal government does not have those same budgetary constraints. And so when we think about traditional economics, we should be applying that to a household or a municipality type budget sense, not to the federal government. And so, of course, grants are ideal, and that's would be preference, but we can't rely on the federal government with the current government we have, that's for sure. And that's why I'm proposing, these utilizing the municipal lending facility to get money into municipality, into the municipality budgets, and also the municipality currencies and bonds. And again, we can't wait a year.
Right.
All the Democrats that I've heard and Republicans. So Republicans want to lower taxes without a plan for revenue, and then Democrats want to raise taxes. And it's like, forget taxes. We can't wait. We can't wait until after tax season. We need money into our communities now.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Courtney, you still there?
No, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I really liked everything I heard. I think that we're 45 minutes in-ish, thereabouts. I think we've covered a lot. Is there a last glance at YouTube chat for questions, maybe?
Yeah, nothing major out there.
Yeah. So I think it's just time for us to hear your final pitch, how to find you, how to help you.
Yeah, and anything else that you really want to make sure that people know about you, give your little boom.
Yeah. I mean, I support Right to Repair. I support Green New Deal initiatives. I might be the only candidate to not only bring up renewable energies, but also next gen nuclear. I support free education, when I initially started running, I was naive enough to want to implement a state. Well, I not ambitious. I'm going to say ambitious to want to implement a state income wealth tax. It turns out we need to change our constitutional amendment to do so. And so, in my team and I, we've discussed ideas on how to get around that, and that one of those ideas also includes that luxury goods. A wealth tax, essentially a luxury goods sales tax, yachts and big purchase items. An exciting idea that we have just discussed recently is to have, within the progressive tax structure model, of course, we need it to be more progressive, that's for sure. But to essentially have a variable tax rate that fluctuates with the wealth income gap disparity, or with wealth income disparity in general. So meaning that this would give incentive to the top 10%, the wealthy, to want to equalize the wealth disparity that we have in society. So as the wealth disparity becomes more equal, there would be an exclusive variable tax on the wealthy that would lower. And as the wealth inequality gap becomes wider, that tax would become higher on the wealthy. So it would give an extra dosage of incentive on the wealthy to basically, have it equal for everyone. And there's
I like that.
Yeah, that was not my idea. That's my policy guy, Tyler Hines. So he's got some gems up his sleeve. He's also my economics guy. So
yeah, we follow Tyler out there. So yeah, I know who you're talking
right
about.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. My team and I, we talk almost every night, and so we're always floating ideas. But that was definitely one that I was excited about and wanted to. Yeah. Actually, this is the first time I floated it to the public.
Oh, there we go, guys. Woo! No, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, but it does give, when you look at it as incentive, it does make it seem a little bit more palatable on the tongue to some than
and it gives them more power. You're basically saying the wealthy, hey, you have the control on this. Like you can take care of this, and it will be good for you. You're putting it kind of in the ball in their court, essentially. So, yeah, I feel like I went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but absolutely, as a former college student, still crippled in debt with student loans and paying high interest rates, we need to cancel student debt. We need to make education, a bachelor's degree free, or at least close to it. Yeah, and we need to make that a priority. Our educational infrastructure is deteriorating in front of our eyes, and so that's also a direct threat to our democracy, I feel like. I have a website, taylorforprogress.com. You can find me on Facebook. Facebook group is Taylor for Progress. Facebook page is Vote Zim. 2 M's at the end, TAYZIMM. You can always reach me an email as well, which is votetTZ@gmail.com, votetTZ@gmail.com. We're always looking for help. We're definitely in grassroots status, so any volunteers are welcome. Anyone who wants to be a part of the team, wants to collaborate, always open to new issues out there. How do we tackle them? Pragmatic solutions. So yeah, we're eager to hear from you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, so give me just a minute and I'll shut down YouTube. Thank you everybody again for joining us tonight, and we'll see you soon. There's splits throughout it, so
Yeah.
oh, hold on, what did it